Richie, the boss is up for Manager of the Month for November. Nice little bit of recognition for him and for all of you.
Yeah, I only found that out myself yesterday, or last night. I think I read it somewhere. He hasn't even told me. I meant to mention it to him in the car this morning and he never said anything. So, yeah, it is, but obviously it's the bigger recognition of the work from the team. I know everybody says that all the time, but an unbeaten November, I think. So, obviously we would have liked a few more points, but yeah, it's probably not a bad start in probably his second month, full month in charge. So, yeah, hopefully there'll be a few more.
Given the fact he's not been crowing about it, does that sort of illustrate the type of character he is? That sort of award doesn't maybe matter all that much in the big picture?
I think you don't know. He probably doesn't know. He probably, yeah, or either that or he's forgotten about it because his memory's horrendous, isn't it? So, yeah, like he's well aware that one, if you don't get it, and two, if we end up losing next week, it means nothing. So, I don't know how many we'll have had over the last 5 or 6 years, probably quite a few. But yeah, if we don't get beat, we don't win at the weekend, or we're not successful come the end of the season, then obviously, you know, it's just something else for him to clutter up his house, really.
You're on a good run at the moment, which is reflected in the nomination. 10 games since you last lost in 90 minutes, 6 unbeaten in the league. What have been the keys to that run for you?
Probably one of the things is we've changed them, or want to change the mindset of the players, become harder to beat, hopefully become harder to score against. Obviously, you know, that's resulted at the minute where it's sort of not dried up at the other end, but there's a couple of nil-nillers in there that we're obviously well aware of. But yeah, so be more organised, have a determination between the group of the recognition of how hard it is to ensure that you don't get beat, the little bits that people don't see, the work with the back, not just the back four, but the work with the people in front of them about how we're going to get the ball back and how we're going to prevent people scoring opportunities, and obviously defending set pieces. So there's a lot goes into it, but a big part of that is, you know, harping on every day in training about, you know, becoming harder to beat. And we set them a challenge a few weeks ago, as we did at a previous club, and so talked about, look, you know, to be successful, you have to be going on runs going into double figures of not getting beat. And obviously within that, there'll be some draws, there'll be some wins, but if you can go on a couple of those runs where it gets into double figures, then somewhere along the line, you'll not be far away. Maybe it's about balance, I'm not sure, but how do you then take that next step, which is turning some more of those draws into victory? Well, I think firstly, I always think that if you draw a lot, of which we have done relatively in the last few weeks, you're either not far away from being a bad side or you're not far away from being a good side. And once that sort of starts to flip one way or the other, then you'll get where you want to get to. And I think we're not far off being a really good side. However, there are still certain things that we obviously need to tweak daily in training with individuals, but with units, and then obviously with them as a group of people as well, really. So I think we're not a million miles away, but there are certain things in terms of be prepared to give the ball away in the final third to create a goal scoring opportunity, make sure that we can sustain attacks better, and weigh in with goals from all over the pitch, really. I'm, you know, probably a tad disappointed in the lack of goals from set pieces and also from the midfield group. So hopefully we can improve that as well. Something you said there about, you know, not being afraid to give the ball away when you're attacking is really interesting, because we hear so often in football generally about, you know, keep the ball, take care of the ball, don't take risks almost, but you feel that you have to take risks sometimes. Yeah, I think you have to be prepared to lose the ball if you want to score a goal, whether that comes from a cross or a ball that you're trying to slide somebody in or a 1-2 around the box. You have to be prepared, I mean, even getting a shot off from the edge of the box, really, you have to be prepared that you might lose it. If you're trying to score the perfect goal constantly, then it ain't going to work. You know, we're in the third tier of English football, unfortunately, and sometimes making teams defend and being prepared to accept that it might be a second phase or come as a result of a clearance or a press, something where we may have put some pressure on them and enabled us to get the ball back. Then, you know, you have to score goals in all different ways. So Yeah, I think we at times probably have been a little bit safe, and we have to be prepared to say, look, you have to accept that we are going to lose the ball at some point, but the prize is worth winning. And if there's a goal at the end of it and you win the game 1-0, then it was definitely worth winning.
For quite a stretch, you've been playing pretty short on bodies, and I think you'll only know internally sort of how challenging it was to put a side together. It looks as though, touch wood, you're getting out of the woods in that respect. Curtis Davis back, Hayden Roberts back, Nathaniel Mendes-Lang back on the pitch already as well. How different does that make sort of the conversations that you have as a staff now? You have a squad to pick from, and you're leaving players out of the matchday squad. Yeah,
well, I you know, it's probably not wrong of me to say that for a while, unfortunately, the team picked itself really. We didn't have as many options as we would have liked. We ended up picking formations that was really about just getting players on the pitch as opposed to the shape and the formation of what we needed to do to win the game, which is never a good start. Competition for place is obviously important, so there wasn't enough competition for places. But the most important thing, I think, from our point of view, was we've always been major sub-users. We genuinely believe that 60-65 minutes, ask the players to, you know, do what they can physically, and then we might change the game, whether it's a change of shape or change of personnel or just fresh legs. And I think if you pretty much look back in the last 5.5 years, there's definitely not a game we haven't used a sub at all. And I'll be amazed if there's many games where we haven't used all the maximum subs that are allowed. So that's been a little bit difficult because we've looked behind us at times, and you know, without being disrespectful to the young lads, they just weren't ready to go on in League One games where we were either drawing or a goal up, and you're thinking, look, it's not fair to put them on in this kind of environment. So like for like changes are important for us, you know, take 2 wingers off, put 2 wingers back on again. We've just not been able to do that. So maybe that might be the little change that we talked about earlier, where it was like, look, how do we change draws into wins? Well, substitutes have played a big part for us over the last 5 or 6 years. So not really being able to do that. So with a bit of luck, that might be something that changes.
You're back on the road this weekend, not far to go to get to Burton. What do you expect from them?
Well, I'm obviously well aware that it's a local derby, as in this division, probably as local as it gets for us, and 2 very different football clubs who've gone in different directions. And I'm old enough to remember Burton Albion as I think maybe a Conference North club even 20 odd years ago. So I have huge admiration for the club who, you know, going through the pyramid's not very easy these days because it's predominantly based around, you know, rich owners and finance, but they did it the correct way. So, you know, to have a couple of years in the Championship and now become a sustained League One club, they've done really well. So, so a really difficult game, not a ground that either we as a group of staff have been successful in the last few years, and I know that the football club haven't been successful, so it's not something we'll be taking lightly. You know, we also know that when you go into a local derby, sometimes form goes out the window. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it does, unfortunately, and there'll be a tremendous atmosphere and a really difficult game.